بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome everyone to our weekly Quranic wisdom study. We are continuing to read from 25th Word by Imam Saeed Nursi from Risale Noor, and Dr. Yamina is here as well with us. And I forgot what I was going to say. Anyhow, so yeah, welcome everyone, and yeah, feel free to turn on your cameras if you're available. And those of you who have a bit of time, Sister Sarah has some suggestions about Zulhijjah at the end of the class. If you want to stay around, and then she'll share her ideas, inshallah. And with that, we're going to come back to our text. We've been reading about the comprehensiveness of the Quran, and one of the things that stayed with me is not just the Quran is literature-wise concise and expressing a lot of things with small, short references, which is eloquence, but that eloquence is miraculous in that it isn't just some amazing literary device, but also it is a way of connecting us to transcendent, to focus on not simply the horizontal, and we tend to focus on the concrete in Maha's words, or so-called concrete, as if spirituality is not really concrete. We tend to get lost in the horizontal, and the whole point is to see the world as pointing to beyond, to connecting us to our Rabb. So that and because mashallah it's so beautiful spring in where many of us are, because we're all in northern hemisphere, so the spring is exquisitely glorifying God around us. And so this example of toward the end of Surah Yasin, we looked at this verse that said, who produces for you fire from green tree, that greenness, this whole greenness coming out, this life bursting in this exquisite manner in unexpected places, and we only stop noticing because we give it a name, and it happens all the time. So it's like, oh yeah, it's spring, things blossom and so on, we move on. But if we stay with that, and that was one of the things that was very helpful, to try to stay with that awe, and it's incredible. And it can also transform our sajda, our prayers, because then when you go to sajda, you are thinking, I am making sajda to the one who brought out that exquisite flower from that dead soil. I am prostrating before the one who's bringing life, not to just one or two flowers, the entire, globe is kind of coming to life in this exquisite manner. And I am the one, I mean, he's the one, I'm the one who's making this happen. And I'm the one, I am prostrating to the one who's making this happen. And then, of course, that's connected to resurrection as well, and taking responsibility for our lives, and even fire coming out of wood, that liveliness. That's also another immense sign. So these are some of the things that stayed with me from last class, or I recall from last class, and then with that, we stopped at fourth glow. This will be page 413 in the e-Risale website. And then there will be kind of more glows and more examples of the comprehensive miraculousness of the Quran in this section. Shall we go ahead and read, Sarah?
Yes, I was just going to share the reviews from my notes for the past few sessions. So big picture and the miraculousness of the Quran, it's to guide us, inshallah Rahman, and I'm going to read the notes that I have, And this is something that I'm so grateful to receiving Nur, and I'm so grateful for Islam from within. And I've been sharing and repeating this with this beautiful sense of gratitude with so many, because the how to Iman, the how to arrive at Iman, nobody shows you that part. Everybody's like, yes, you have to have Iman, you have to read the Quran, you have to know the Quran is a miracle. But how to arrive, how to do the steps of pause, wait, and observe that we've been repeating a lot with the smaller groups, um, as we talk about our life affairs and our struggles and what we're finding come up in our lives with worry and concern and disrupt our sense of peace. Through this weekly Quran study, we're coming together as a collective to do the sabiru and to do the rabitu, to come together, and through the Quran's training of Iman and through the blessing of Dr. Yamina, may Allah grant her afia and increase her in all that she's been given to convey from Rabbil Alameen, we learn that the study of the Quran is to allow us to be open to see His rahmah in everything. This requires pause, and Dr. Yamina said it many times, pause, wait, and observe, to see, first of all, notice my needs, and we talked about listening to our bodies. Our bodies are constantly communicating with us, but when we're so out of touch with our bodies, and this has become a perpetual way of being, how do we expect to witness the signs within our bodies when we're not even in our bodies? Yani, it's impossible. But nobody's doing these steps of teaching us how to come back to our bodies, how to pause so that we can focus on allowing this love, this divine channel of rahmah and care, His inaya. These are words that Dr. Yamin has been emphasizing for the length of Quran study with receiving Nur, especially with the 25th word, with the miraculousness of the Quran. The speaker who is speaking in the Quran and in our very calculated, measured, and deliberate affairs and calamities that are sent to afflict us, mindfulness bell, is sent so that we can do the pausing and the waiting and then observe the malakuti side, this communication of His care happening unto me. And then only when we do that, the self-reliance gets quiet, and all of the whispers of that feel like screams of concern and alarms of worry and screams of chaos slowly and slowly and slowly get quieter and quieter and quieter, because we're replacing that voice with intentional pause, moments of pause, to remember that in every single moment, His care is flooding every scene that I'm seeing, whether it's myself or whether I'm outside. There's constant divine care. So Bismillah, we renew our intention to receive together His rahmah, which is so super, yeah, it's so abundant. It's wasi'at kulli shay. And the only way to witness that is to pause, wait, and observe in our daily affair with a constant, morning, renewed intention to be in awe of Rabb, to be in awe and to wait and to observe and to pause. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. May this halaqah be a constant reminder to come together as a collective, the way we're asked to do in His guidance of the Quran, to pause together, reflect together, and do the work outside of halaqah together. أهم حاجة. Yani, don't forget the most important step. That we're all checking in together. Inshallah, we can set up a system where we're checking in with one another, like, hey, did you pause today? How many times did you pause today? How many times do we need to pause to feel okay throughout the day? It can't just be 5 times. It can't just be morning and night, because there's so many minutes between morning and night that will completely lead us astray unless we pause more regularly. So Bismillah, we talked about isbiru, sabiru, rabitu. Here we are. awaiting his mercy and his fath, and peace and blessings on the Prophet on this blessed Jummah. Salawatullah, salamun alayhi. Bismillah.
Jazakallah khair, Sarah. And who would like to start reading from fourth glow here on the screen?
Bismillah, I can read, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Qur'an's conciseness is so comprehensive and wonderful that when studied carefully, it becomes apparent that sometimes through some simple detail or particular event, it compassionately shows to simple, ordinary minds most extensive, lengthy, universal rules and general laws, like showing an ocean in a ewer. We shall point out only two examples of this out of thousands. The first example. This is the 3 verses expounded in detail in the first station of the 20th word, which describe, under the name of the teaching of the names to the person of Adam, the teaching of all the sciences and branches of knowledge with which the sons of Adam have been inspired. Through the angels prostrating before Adam and Satan not prostrating, they state that most beings, from fish to angels, are subjugated to humankind. Just as harmful creatures, from snakes to Satan, do not obey man and are hostile to him. And through the people of Musa, alayhi salam, Moses, slaughtering a cow, they state that the concept of cow worship, which was taken from the worship of cows in Egypt and showed its effect in the event of the calf, was slaughtered by Moses' knife. And through water gushing forth from the rock and springs flowing out and spreading, they also state that the rock layer, which is under the soil layer, acts as the source of both water, springs, and the soil. Should we stop there? Bismillah.
So here it makes reference to 20th word, first station. It's here, another chapter in the words. And I think some years ago we did study this at Receiving Nur. We should have recording. But here there are 3 passages from Surah Al-Baqarah. The first is story of Adam alayhi salam. Adam is being created and angels are told to prostrate before Adam, and then all of them prostrate except Iblis. And then this is in Surah 2, verse 34, around that, a few verses before and after that story. And then the other one is the story of Musa alayhi salam's people being commanded to sacrifice a cow, around verse 67. And then they don't want to do it, and they eventually do it, and then it talks about in verse 74, it talks about, your hearts have become hardened, even like rocks, and even harder. And then it goes on to talk about, but there are among rocks, they split and water gushes forth from them, and so on. So these are kind of just 3 examples that is treated in 20th word first station. And one basic question is like, how is it eloquent? Like, these are some events apparently happened in a time either prehistory, before even being sent to the earth, or in history, but we don't have direct access to it. What is the point of talking about these stories? And how is it guidance? And then there was that discussion. Now, here in this 25th word that we've just read, it is saying these three verses, three passages from Surah Baqarah are an example of what? Through a simple and particular detail or event, the Quran compassionately shows to simple minds universal laws or extensive realities. And these are examples of that. Because in the story of, I don't know if we should go and try to read these sections, or we go over it just the way he quickly mentions here, that in the story of Adam being told all the names. So that's a key verse in the Quran, I think same Surah Baqarah, verse 30. استعوذ بالله علم الآدم أسماء كلها. 31, verse 31. وعلم الآدم أسماء كلها. So, and God taught Adam the names, all of them. And in that, it seems like a particular event, a detail, but actually it is signifying something much larger, which is Adam alayhi salam. He represents the whole humanity, and Adam being taught all the names is the capacity given to children of Adam, Bini Adam, that human beings have the capacity to learn so many different branches of knowledge and sciences. So when God teaches all the names, those names signify this potential to learn given to human being, and then through which human beings will, connect with beautiful names of God as well. So, and then even in that story later on, angels bow down to Adam. Satan does not bow down. It's saying that these verses state that most beings in the world are subjugated to human being. Like they benefit human being. From the fish to angels. You might wonder why does it say fish to angels? Because it rhymes in the original. Semek and Melek, from Semek to Melek. So like all these different creatures are benefiting, or human beings able to steer them, like we are the only being that steers other beings and makes use of them, and no other creature does that to human being or other beings. So angels bowing down to Adam represents all these different beings in the world being subjugated, serving. What is subjugated in musakhar? Subservient, serving, benefiting humankind. And then Satan not bowing down represents the kind of minority, but there are a minority of things on earth that are harmful. That doesn't rhyme from me. Snakes to Satan. They are hostile to human beings. So there are some creatures that are harmful, and then Satan is kind of really, existentially hostile to human being, like really wants to get us out of the way. So even though it looks like a little details, but all of these details are actually tip of an iceberg, as he says elsewhere in the 20th word, I think. Tip of a universal principle being expressed in a story form to make it accessible to common people like us. And then the story of yeah, maybe somebody else can speak. I did the first example, so you guys maybe share what you understand from this this part in the surah. through the people of Musa alayhi salam slaughtering a cow. They state, I mean, they state sounds funny, like the verses state means, or the Quran states.
It feels like a very expansive reading to me.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Um, I feel that usually when I'm reading the verses, I get stuck on the kind of first pass understanding, like teaching of the names or slaughtering the cow. So if I remember correctly, right, Surah Baqarah, it's about this whole instance, right? So,
I mean, there's a section there, Surah 30, verse 32.
right. So
30, yeah. Mm-hmm.
the initial reading of the verse seems like um, they did something wrong.
This is for which one?
The slaughtering of the cow.
The cow. Okay, do you want to take a look at it? 74. Okay, you keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm referring to if I'm remembering the
Second.
right place anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, here.
Right. Um,
67.
right. So this is the part where
Do you want to
um,
read it, Nurbana, just to refresh and we're all on the same
read
page?
it. Yeah, I can read it. Okay. I'll read the translation, inshallah.
Mm-hmm.
And lo, Moses said unto his people, Behold, God bids you to sacrifice a cow. They said, Dost thou mock at us? He answered, I seek refuge with God against being so ignorant. Said they, Pray on our behalf unto thy sustainer, that he may clear to us what she is to be like, referring to the cow. Moses replied, Behold, he says it is to be a cow, neither old nor immature, but of art age in between. Do then what you have been bidden. Said they, Pray on our behalf unto thy sustainer, that he may clear to us what her color should be. Moses answered, Behold, he says it is to be a yellow cow, bright of hue, pleasing to the beholder. Said they, Pray on our behalf unto thy sustainer, that he may clear to us what she is to be like, for to us all cows resemble one another, and then if God so wills, we shall truly be guided aright. Moses answered, Behold, he says it is to be a cow, not broken in to plow the earth, or to water the crops, free of fault, without markings of any other color. Said they, At last thou hast brought out the truth. And thereupon they sacrificed her, although they had almost left it undone.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
We can stop here.
so my
Mm.
initial reaction was, oh, this story, like this kind of back and forth, is usually not shown as this Tawhidi slaying of the, cow worship, kind of what that represents, right? But the way that Imam Nursi is interpreting it here is what Prophet Musa alayhi salam is bringing, like the message or the essence of what he's bringing with this command is um, through the people of Moses, peace be upon him, slaughtering a cow. They state that the concept of cow worship um, was slaughtered by Moses' knife. So if this is kind of like something we see a lot in the methodology that we study, right? Um, Kind of a bird's eye view on, okay, what is the prophet's message?
Mm.
And on the whole, like what is it representing? So it's not just, oh, these people are being really
Stubborn, that's
stubborn and there's a word for like when you're so hung up on um the words or the details of something, right? So it feels like your prophet is telling you this is God's command, and it should to me, it's like, okay, let me just do it. But they keep going back and forth, like, oh, ask him what kind of cow, what color, and how should
Mm.
it be? They all look the same to us. And you're just like, oh my God, like you're driving me crazy. But when I'm reading this exchange, I'm not really thinking, oh, what is Moses's message representing here? I think, oh my God, these annoying people being so stubborn, or like being so focused or like lost in the details. And here he's just like pulling me back and he's saying, look, at the core of it, what is Prophet Musa representing here? His command, what he's bringing from Allah, is slaughtering a concept, not an actual cow, right? It's like they had this practice of idol worship, cow worship, and Prophet Musa is representing the Tawheed perspective of, hey, we are going to slaughter that. We're going to cut that, like, we're going to stop that in the root. So that's just a completely new way of looking at those same verses, which is why I said it's like expansive in that sense, like expanding how I'm understanding it.
Ziba wrote excuses and details. Uh, excuses and details. Yeah, so asking details, I think one way that it is often read as like in the um, ethical or moral or fiqh sense, that when you're commanded to do something, don't go droning in. How that's typically like, not typically, but traditionally, like one way this is interpreted. And don't be like that. Go back and forth, ask more and more and more details. That makes it harder for you to carry out the command. At the same time, I think the deeper thing is like the excuses. Why is it that they're asking so many questions? It's not like they want to do it perfectly. It's because they actually don't want to do it. It reminds me of like a
Is
child who doesn't want to do housework, like like go do the dishwasher, but when and how and why and where they put this, and like, you can totally understand that this person actually don't want to do it, so that's why they're dragging their feet. Yes, Dr. Yamina.
I said they stalling,
Yeah, they're stalling. Yeah.
just delaying. They don't want to do it, to slaughter the cow,
Yeah.
which means they still cherished it.
Mm.
Yeah, so although they are being forced to slaughter their attachment, actually, it's not about the cow, but about their attachment to the cow.
But if they can't actually slaughter the cow, that's a sign that they are actually attached to you. So it's not only a
That's the
simple thing they're asked to do. They're actually asked to do physically, slaughter the cow.
cow is the idol.
Yeah. So, and then they I think in the 20th word, the place that he referred, he goes into more detail that because cow was at the heart of um life, because Egypt is nothing without the Nile, without the water, livelihood wise. And then water is so important because agriculture is possible with water, and for agriculture you need the cow, to plow the earth. So cow becomes so significant because if you don't have a cow, you can't really quite do the agriculture, you can't really survive. So then you can understand why it was such a big deal for them, the cow.
They had a goddess, cow goddess, no?
Maybe, yeah. So even though they left it, right? They cow worship, is still, they lived in that culture. So that regard for the cow had to be slaughtered. I mean, I in like to echo a bit what Nurbana said, like the verse, if it could have like one sentence saying that, Musa alayhi salam then said, hence you worship only one God and not the calf, then it might have been easy. Like, I don't know, like until, as Nuban is, until I read that interpretation from the Risale, I couldn't quite understand. The only thing I can infer is like they're dragging their feet not to obey God's command, which is not a right thing to do, and you should surrender and accept God's command, which is, I guess, related to Tawheed still, but um, I didn't
In
think.
the second moment when he leaves, Prophet Moses leaves, and then they take that calf as they
Yeah,
make it their own. Like it's the same thing. They bring it back,
yeah, you're right. It's already in the Quran. It's not. I was thinking this is a historical information that somebody points
Like a
out.
golden one from
Golden-
Zin,
Yeah,
the Samari comes and
yeah. But again, it's a calf. Like, what is this whole thing about the calf, right?
they
It's
make
already
a golden one,
golden one.
but it's hollow, and the Samari says, you see, it makes noise, but it's makes noises because it's hollow. It means
There's
it's
a
very symbolic actually of idols.
actually it is in the Quran. I was thinking like you need somebody.
Idol doesn't have to be something out there. It's our relationship to something. It could be our relationship to our career, to a person, to an identity that we think is very important. And we know there is something, we have an unhealthy attachment when everything around us is pushing us to let go of that thing, but we make up justifications and we rationalize the situation. Exactly like the tactics to delay whatever, the surrender.
And being it hollow, it has such a big significance because it doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't, like, you will be running after it, and it will.
It makes noise, but
satisfy. Yeah.
empty noise.
Why weren't the questions about the cow, the details, perceived as perfectionism and wanting to do things right?
Because in other instances they have already shown, like when he said that you go, then they say, no, you go into the Karya, you and your God fight, we are not fighting. Like, their attitude has been that way. So if they had the right intentions, it would have shown in their attitude in other instances as well. But throughout, they're like, this falls in line with how they approached everything, basically.
And points to the human pattern of exactly what Dr. Yamina said: defending, stalling, rationalizing, because of the ego's resistance and unwillingness, and it's due to attachment to whatever.
We know they are unwilling because later in the text it says, so they slaughtered it, and وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ, though they were not going to do it. So from the language, we know that they are unwilling. They are just making up excuses. So it's not about doing it perfectly, but it's about avoiding to actually surrender to the command. And the Prophet ﷺ has, I think, a warning against this kind of behavior.
And
We
also,
know not perfectionism.
and it also starts with, are you joking? Are you kidding with us? Like, that first reaction is like, of course we wouldn't want to slaughter a cow. What are you talking about? Kind of. And then, yeah, at the end, it says, as Dr. Yamina said. That gives us a clue. Otherwise, we would have to guess. Like, are they being perfect? That's an excellent question. I think perfectionists know because they didn't want to do it.
If they were sincere, would they ask this kind of question? They would say, how shall we perform it? Show us the way. No, they are like, what kind of this? They are trying to making it so difficult that they want to have to do it.
And then what amazes me in this, how Musa alayhi salam is responding. Like, when we go to the story of Khidr and Musa, and then there you feel that Musa alayhi salam is he doesn't have sabr. But here he's replying it again and again. Like each when you read each one, like he's repeating like innaha bakaratun, innaha this. Like it's as if like he's so patient with them, like he's replying each and every excuse of them with so much of patience.
And did they at some time say to Musa alayhi salam, go and pray to your Rabb for us to make it clear or something like that?
Yeah.
There,
دع
I mean,
لنا
when you follow the
بني-
language, the language is clearly not willing, very unwilling.
And then in the responses, Musa alayhi salam is saying, like this is verse
They don't say our Lord, our Rabb, say Rabbuka, if I remember correctly. Because
yeah.
searched
قال
for a long time ago.
And then when Musa alayhi salam gives a bit more in details that they wanted, it says, do then what you have been bidden. فَافْعَلُوا مَا تُؤْمَرُونَ. Like, go ahead and do it. Don't ask me more questions because like there's a sense that it's not clearly being perfectionism.
Because they are told, just do it. And they are,
Yeah.
so if it was perfectionist, they
And
said,
then,
Allah said, just do it.
yeah. Yeah, this is helpful because initially I thought, unless, we have this information, the people of Egypt at the time considered cow and bull to be holy, so they worship them. I was like, if I don't have this information, how am I going to understand this verse in that light? But you're right that there's also golden calf story in the Quran, indicating that there is this idolization of calf going on. I don't have to know the history of Egypt or the context necessarily to be able to infer this. And coming back to this overall message of the Prophet as being Tawheed, as Nurbanu was saying, to keep that in mind as we approach these Quranic texts.
How does it apply to us, like here and now? Like what all what all excuses do we make not to go back to the source? We are stuck in the small gods we make, and my career, my kids, my this and my that, whatever is giving us value, we get stuck in that, and then that's what brings us pain, and that's what he's asking us to slaughter. But we have no. This is my we take on like, oh, I'm responsible for my child. I'm responsible for this. So then the way we get stuck is the same way as they are stuck in their gods they created.
I think one thing that we can test that was from the earlier halakas, that if it is our love or commitment to something is making us compromise on the commandments, God's commands. Like here, they are explicitly commanded to slaughter the cow and they can't. So then that's a wake-up call, like why we are idolizing this thing, because it's one thing to say it's God's creature, it's helpful, we're using it, nothing wrong with it. Yes, yes, yes. But now your God is saying, slaughter it. No, I can't. Then if we similarly in our lives, we get these circumstances where I really really love this thing, I'm really committed, it's so important, but then in order to continue this, I need to blatantly go against a command. Either maybe perhaps I have to be dishonest, or I have to do something that's actually not allowed. So then that's my cow. I don't want to digress, but this is a good one example. Of course, it's a very outside example. Doesn't, I think, apply to any of us here. So it's easy to talk about other people. But to me, still, it is a good example of this, understanding this story. This lady who's, she's a Jewish lady, and not very religious actually, but she gave this talk about a Passover talk, and she said, I was reading the story of Moses, and Zionism is our idol. Look at us, like so many of us are drunk in this Zionism, and it is making us go against all the major commandments. You shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. And she went on and on. I was like, this woman really applied like the core of the story. Uh, because she was like, this is our cow. This is the golden calf in the story, and we are. And somebody interviewed him. It's like, this is not really your story. It's not my story. She's not a theological person, but she was like, it struck me like when I read the story again this season, and then seeing what has been happening. As it just came. She said, the Zionism is our idol. We have this golden calf. We are going
But
after.
they have that red cows, even like literally, like they are grazing those cows to be for the sole purpose of Zionism. Like how once they get the temple, then they'll have those cows. I think I've seen pictures of the red colored reefs. What are they called?
Yeah, so they think they can slaughter children to get that cow. Like that's completely, of course it's about Torah and it's about another religious tradition, but I thought, it could apply to that any kind of ideology that makes us go against core Quranic commandments. You shall not lie, you shall not, murder, you shall not cheat. And then if you're doing these things so that you're going to further something for God, there's something deeply wrong. Anyhow.
Within our like within Muslim communities also, like there are so many things when it comes to your own dealings. You take away Quran, you put Quran away from it, and then you want to do things your own way. Like that's how, like, even we have seen so many people, like especially in divorce and all this. Like it's totally like they just go with the court system and they want to go ahead and make the worst out of the divorce. Whereas wherever divorce the verses in Quran comes, they are about being just and being like with Hassan and all that. But once it comes to their dealings, then the Quran is out of the way. So it's the same attitude. When you don't want to follow, then you just don't even. And people who are like we have seen who are very pious earlier, and when it comes to things like this, uh, they just don't want to. Yeah, don't want to follow.
Yeah. So they were making excuses because they had this idol in their heart. And so with that story, it gives us this important lesson. Cut it off. Don't be I mean, as Sarah wrote in the chat, it in this season, Zulhijjah, getting ready to slaughter our Ishmael, or or not literally, but uh, it's meaningful. And then this water thing, verse 74. You can maybe read these couple verses to this one verse to see what the text is referring to. Sarah, would you like to read maybe?
And yet, after all this, your hearts hardened and became like rocks, or even harder. For behold, there are rocks from which streams gush forth. And behold, there are some from which, when they are cleft, water issues. And behold, there are some that fall down for awe of God, and God is not unmindful of what you do. really addressing the hardness of the human ego in the parable of the rock. And even like the fact that it's mentioned in Imam Nursi's text, it's the knife of Musa, which is kalam Allah, that is slaughtering. The guidance of Allah is the tool, the weapon that destroys these false concepts and false attachments. Because even the rock, from within it, water will gush forth. And look at the human, like, look at the stubbornness, look at the, we talked a lot about our pride and our ego and our thoughts, that my idea is better and my thoughts are my opinion and my preference and my thoughts and my beliefs take the priority. That's the rock, كالحجارة. Allahu Alam. I mean, that's what comes to me about this, again, pattern that we are likely to fall into if we do not, again, remember all the time what Dr. Mina is sharing about humility and being very careful of our attachments and being very careful, even attachments to my own preference, which is the trickiest part. Your attachment to what you think is best in any situation. How subtle is that? And no matter how many tell you, but no, this may not surrender. What? Let go? How? But it can't be. It doesn't matter if it can be or you don't know. We don't know. We don't know. But then, oh, but, and if this stall and the delay, but just let go, but just trust, but just pause, but just wait, but observe. What? But ازاي? But this person is clearly, and this is a situation that's obviously, and this is, and it's exactly, I loved what you said, Ziba, about Musa alayhi salam and in the Surah Al-Kahf, like, but how is that? Yeah, he was the one like, what? How is that? No sabr. But that's different than arrogance. It's just no sabr. I don't know and I don't understand and I don't have patience. So the theme there was like, I told you you're not going to be patient. I told you you couldn't I told you you couldn't wait patiently. You couldn't trust. You couldn't just pause. You couldn't just, and that's our condition. Whereas this is like, it's not about patience. This is about arrogance and humbling the ego to the command of Allah, and how we still resist and we have that hardness in us. This is also another repeated pattern. Allah yafina.
Reminds me that in Prophet Musa's version, right, as they go through these three different scenarios, like you said, he wants answers. Like he is impatient for the answer or like the wisdom of why is he acting this way. But for me, in like a similar scenario, I am just acting instead of asking like, what's the wisdom, right? His test is perhaps with patience, and you said, okay, there's no arrogance. So where's the arrogance in mine? It's like if I were there and I see Prophet Musa's teacher breaking the ship or rebuilding the wall, I'd be there like, undoing it behind him or redoing it because I'm like, okay, obviously this is wrong, or obviously this is how it should be done, and I am so sure of that. So the way that I insert myself into like that creative flow, like Allah's creation, is me thinking I obviously like it's not even asking. At least he's asking. He's like, what, where, like, what's the wisdom here?
You're
Me,
like,
I'm
I
like,
was sent to fix this problem.
I'm like, okay, obviously, this slipped your mind. Let me help you out there.
So like,
Um,
story like quite different in that um you know, like he has this very special mysterious rendezvous, and the things he's witnessing are things that you shouldn't actually be watching and being okay with it. Like what, like he commits a murder, so it's he you have the Sharia telling you that no, you don't stick around with a person who's committing a murder and justifying it. You don't wait to hear what is it, what is the justification for this genocide? Maybe there is a reason, like there's certain boundaries that you don't cross. So it's a kind of a more deeper, like like that story is more behind the scenes, like he's taken not in the regular life but behind the scenes. So Khidr, for instance, killing that child, and he says I'm not doing it on my, it is more in the real realm of things. I think it's more like, God forbid, car accident happens, and or something bad something beyond your control happens, and now here you go, you lost your beloved, oh God forbid, beloved person. So then that is like what Khidr did, as it were, behind the scenes he's working. So he's getting a peek behind the scenes, and all of that is has wisdom, and it's too much, so he can't really continue that journey, and he has to come back. And when he comes back, he doesn't change the Sharia. He doesn't say, well, under certain circumstances, if you have this deep wisdom, you can do this. No, like even, I mean, the highest that happens is Ibrahim alayhi salam commanded to slaughter his son, or at least he thinks so. He thinks he's commanded to do so, and he stopped from it. That's hard for, like, the furthest happens. And again, if you see a same dream, you're not supposed to try to slaughter your child. Like it's really, um, those kind of stories are more um, a bit like they're in a different level. Of course, they have guidance, but here this seems to be more like simpler. There's nothing wrong with slaughtering a cow, and you're commanded by your prophet to do so, and you're still resisting. That represents that there are certain things that are given to us clearly, as compass in our lives, and if we are dragging our feet because we have some other priorities, and we're going against those commandments, those commands, those guidelines, then it is signaling something uh, that we need to clear.
can we go
In
back?
these ayat, like I always think, like is the mention of different types of rocks and steam gush forth and some fall down. It's like telling about the different types of hearts. Or what's the significance behind it? Because when Imam Nursi is mentioning it, it's mentioned as like all have benefits or something. When we were reading the interpretation.
Yeah, so in 20th word, it really kind of goes more in depth. It's actually a question that is asked. Maybe we can quickly read it. I mean, it's 2 pages, but um, maybe we'll read it very briefly, uh, and then people can revisit if they want to read it more carefully. But that's a very good question, because it does seem like, okay, rocks, and then rocks, and then rocks. Why is it mentioned in different scenarios? What's the point of it? Um, shall we read?
Yeah,
So you're gonna read, Nirvana?
sure.
Mm.
And yet, after all this, your hearts hardened and became like rocks, or even harder. For behold, there are rocks from which streams gush forth, and behold, there are some from which, when they're cleft, water issues. And there are some that fall down for awe of God, and God is not unmindful of what you do. While reading the above verse, the whisperer said, what meaning is there in discussing and explaining, as though they were the most important and significant of matters, certain natural states of rocks, which are commonplace and everyone knows about? How is it fitting, and what need is there? In the face of this suggestion, the following point was imparted to me from the effulgence of the Qur'an. Yes, it is fitting, and there is need for it. And it is so fitting, and there is a meaning so significant, and truth so enormous and necessary, that only through the Qur'an's miraculous conciseness and guiding grace has it been simplified to a degree and summarized. Yes, conciseness, one foundation of the Qur'an's miraculousness, and guiding grace and fitting instruction, which are one light of its guidance, require that, in the face of ordinary people, who form the majority of those whom the Qur'an addresses, universal truths and profound and general principles are shown in familiar and particular forms, and that due to their simple minds, only the tips of vast truths are shown, and in a simple form, and moreover, that the divine disposals, which are wondrous and extraordinary beneath the veil of the commonplace and under the earth, are shown briefly. Thus, it is due to this mystery that the all-wise Qur'an says the following with the above verse. O children of Israel and sons of Adam, what has happened to you that your hearts have become harder and more lifeless than stone? For do you not see that those extremely hard, lifeless, huge rocks formed in vast strata under the earth are so obedient and subjugated before the divine commands, and so soft and tractable under the dominical works, that to whatever degree the divine disposals occur without resistance in the formation of trees in the air, orderly water channels and veins, like the circulation of blood in veins, occur with the same ease and order and with perfect wisdom in those hard, deaf rocks under the earth. And like the way the branches of trees and plants spread in the air with ease, encountering no obstacles, the delicate veins of roots spread with the same ease in the rocks under the earth. The Qur'an indicates this and teaches an extensive truth with the verse, and thus by allusion says the following to the hard-hearted. O children of Israel and sons of Adam, what sort of heart do you bear within your weakness and impotence, so that with its hardness it resists the command of such a one? Whereas how perfectly and obediently the huge strata of hard rocks carry out their delicate duties in the darkness before his commands. They display no disobedience. Indeed, those rocks act as treasurers for the water of life and other means of life of all the living creatures above the earth, and are the means for their division and distribution. They do this with such a wisdom and justice that they are soft like wax or air in the hand of power of the all-wise one of glory. Offering no resistance, they prostrate before his mighty power. For just like well-ordered creatures and wise and gracious divine disposals occur on top of the earth, which we observe, the same occur beneath it. Indeed, divine wisdom and favor are manifest there in a more wondrous and strange way in regard to wisdom and order. See how like wax those hard, unfeeling, mighty rocks display a softness towards the creational commands, and how they offer no resistance or hardness to the delicate waters, the fine roots, and silken veins, which are divine officials. As though, like a lover, the rock's heart melts at the touch of those delicate, beautiful things and becomes earth in their path. And behold, there are some that fall down for awe of God. The Qur'an shows the tip of a vast truth, which is like this. Like in the event of Moses asking for the vision of God, and the famous mountain crumbling at the divine manifestation, and the rocks being scattered through the manifestations of divine glory in the form of earthquakes and mountains shaking, most of which are like great monoliths formed of solidified liquid and certain other geological occurrences, through such awesome manifestations of glory, the rocks fall from the high summits of the mountains and are broken up. Some of these crumble, and being transformed into earth, become the source of plants. Others remain as rocks, and rolling down to the valleys and plains are scattered. They serve many purposes in the works of the earth's inhabitants, by being utilized in their houses, for example, and prostrating in submission before divine wisdom and power for certain hidden instances of wisdom and benefits. They take on the form of being at the command of the principles of divine wisdom. The evidence that they're leaving their high places out of awe, choosing lower places in humble fashion, and being the means of those significant benefits, and that they are neither futile nor acting of their own accord, nor are objects of chance, but that within the disorder, through the wise disposal of one all-wise and all-powerful, they are within a wise order, not apparent to the superficial eye. The evidence for this are the purposes and benefits attached to the rocks, and the perfect order and fine art of the shirts adorned and embossed with the jewels of fruits and flowers, with which the bodies of the mountains, down which they roll, are clothed. These testify in a decisive fashion which cannot be doubted. Thus you have seen how valuable these three parts of the verse are from the point of view of wisdom. Now see the Quran's subtle manner of exposition and miraculous eloquence. See how it shows through the three famous and observed events in the three parts of the verse, the tips of the above-mentioned extensive and important truths, and through recalling three further events, which are a warning lesson, it offers subtle guidance. It restrains in a way that cannot be resisted. For example, in the second part of the verse, it says, "And behold, there are some from which, when they're cleft, water issues." By alluding through this sentence to the rock, which split with perfect eagerness under the staff of Moses, peace be upon him, and poured forth 12 streams from 12 sources, it imparts the following means. O children of Israel.
I think we can summarize remaining part. I think the remaining one page, he's going to connect this three parts in the verse to three miracles of Musa alayhi salam. So they fall down for awe of God. No, which one was the first one? The first one is where the rocks that are cleft, water gushes through them. So he noted how the water goes under the earth like blood vessels, like they're like veins underneath the water flow, and the rocks, those kind of wisdom in the way things are ordered. And then it also refers to Musa alayhi salam's miracle for children of Israel when, he strikes with his staff and 12 springs gush forth from the rock. And then those who fall down, some who fall down for awe of God, that's the Tur, the Mount Sinai being there's a huge mountain that crumbled and Musa alayhi salam wanted to see God. And then the last bit about rocks from which streams gush forth, that's blessed Nile that they would be familiar with. I think we can maybe give the link for people to read more, or should we just keep reading?
I think just reflecting on it is fine, right? Like the idea is, the initial question was, what's the point of mentioning rocks here? It's just so commonplace, and it feels like when you have something like the divine word of God, you don't really expect there to be mention of rocks and pebbles, and like what is it doing here really? And then one, methodologically, the idea is, okay, who is the main audience of the Quran, right? And so we're going to start with then it's referring, or it's the general audience is lay people. So whatever divine speech is being um, revealed needs to first meet the needs of that majority. And then the miraculousness of it is that under that seemingly like ordinary uh, imagery and references, he calls it like a tip, like the tip of the iceberg, we say. So that part is enough for the majority of people. But for people who are looking deeper, there is a rest of that iceberg. And like here, he is just giving his interpretation and his understanding, which is already like very new to many people, right? It's like I never sat down and thought about, oh, the three different kinds of rock actually correspond to the three different miracles of Musa alayhi salam. And then each, like, how rocks move in the earth. I mean, rocks are just not a point of tafakkur even, because you're like, okay, I can do some reflection on a beautiful flower, or I can do some reflection on a vast spring, but rocks are just so bottom of the food chain that you don't even really think about it. And here he gives you how much wisdom and mercy there is, and this like the imagery is beautiful. It's like how a lover is so subtle, right? Like it's like softening and making way because it's saying on top of the earth, you're seeing all the flowers, the color, the beauty, the animals, the creatures. What's happening under the earth? It's made of this hard stuff. And then he's saying, I mean, if any of you like is now that it's spring, like you might be weeding, your yard. If you pull the weeds, um, it's like they're like thread, the roots. And yet, they have gone down in that rock clay mixture and they have grown, and that tiny thread, very thin, very fragile, is holding a huge flower or a bunch of leaves, and you're just like, how did this happen, right? And if I started planting some flowers in my yard and like actually digging in just a little bit so I can put a little flower, it requires a lot of muscle from me. But that tiny, tiny little weed with its tiny, very thin, very fragile root is just going there like it owns the place. So he's saying, okay, look, this clay, this rock, it's making way for these fine arts, for these fragile things, and it's a very subtle art happening beneath the surface. And so you say rock and you think, oh my God, rocks are so ordinary, but there's so much wisdom and order and subtlety happening just beneath the surface, it's just like beautiful reflection that is now you see, okay, that is definitely, oh, your heart is hard like a rock. Oh yeah, that's like tip of the iceberg. And then he just kind of reveals a bit of the iceberg, and it's just like, oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful reflection, Urbano. Jazakallah khair for sharing.
And if when it says like rocks fall, that's like they just fall. That's my initial reaction. They fall. Okay, let's not make a big meal out of this. They just fall. And it's like, no, like even if it may seem disorderly or by chance, what comes out of this, you know, they fall and they become soil. Like that's where unbelievably where the soil is made out of those rocks that are crushed. And from that soil, all this delicate art is coming forth. Clearly, even if it may seem disorganized or falling by chance, it cannot be, because look at how this kind of exquisite art is being brought out of it, and this is the support of that. That is also remarkable, because you're like, okay, you want to make a metaphor, but come on, like rocks are falling from the awe of God. What are you talking about? But it also brings us to the core purposes of the Quran to wake us up from looking over things because they're so familiar. Yeah, they fall, they grow, they this, they that. Like, wait a second, it's there is awe, there is things are being done out of the angelic side, not out of just things that are happening on their own, just like that. So coming back to 25th word, this section, it's saying that these are 3 examples of how very concisely the Quran is conjuring up deeper truths to the ordinary minds. Universal rules and general laws are being packed into these apparently simple parables or simple stories.
I just love to bring us back to that, inshallah, as we conclude, that through these discussions of these passages in the Quran, we receive universal rules. Like, when you behave this way, it's pointing to this condition, which is healed through this way of flowing with the, like, not resisting and not, when you find yourself with an unhealthy attachment, when you find yourself resisting to the divine command and the divine way, then that indicates an attachment that needs to be slaughtered. Yani, it's just, I love that this is his sunnatullah. These are his rules in the universe. This is how you're going to see them play out in your life. When you're behaving like this, like the Pharaoh, like the people of Israel with the cow, when you keep stalling and delaying, when your ego has become so hard that you just are standing in resistance and refusing to really witness the softness and be with that abundant flow of mercy, which is indicated through water. Even the hardness of the rock yields with ease to the flow of water. So I love that universal rules and general laws are used to summarize, mashallah, these really human conditions. Tavatari, Nurbano.
And also in the first word, right? Bismillah. When there's a part where Imam Nursi comes to the same example, and he says the delicate roots of flowers say Bismillah and pierce through the rock. So, is it right here? Yeah. The roots and rootlets, soft as silk, of plants, trees, and grasses say, in the name of God, and pierce and pass through hard rock and earth. And so one of the things that we keep reflecting on is our own weakness and powerlessness, and how that can be so overwhelming, or it can feel like such a burden because, oh, I want to control everything and I want to make sure everything is correct and this and that, but you're so fragile, you're so soft. But Allah's showing us, right? You said it's the sunnatullah. He's saying there is a way for something as soft as silk to pierce through something as hard as rock. It's Bismillah. So when I live Bismillah, when I'm like, okay, that's my support, that's my source of strength, then I can pierce through whatever obstacle or challenge or hardship that's coming my way, because it's the sunnatullah. He's showing it to me right in front of my eyes.
Love that connection. Because when we don't allow, and you know what, linking it to our practice that we've been doing. So we've been collectively talking about milking the awe, staying in the state of awe, coming back to the here and now, to remember, to witness anew His rahmah, effulgence of rahmah happening right now. And when we do that, when we are in the state of witnessing His rahmah, His care, His rububiyyah, which is our life purpose on earth, when we realize that we're being taken care of, then we soften. We soften. And it's like as though people are afraid. People are like, why is it so hard to surrender? Why do we always resist? Because we find this pattern that we yield to of supporting the ego, supporting my ideas, and we stand by it and we defend it and we'll stall and we say, but don't you see, a million things, even if it's correct. Like Isra said, even if you know in the Shara, murder is haram, but Allah is telling you, I'm going to teach you something, so sabr. And you say, but how could you? It was a child and you cannot. Allah is saying, just pause, wait, observe. And in that softness of what we're supposed to do, I love the last, to end with Bismillah Nurbanu is the beautiful, and I love this passage. I will never forget the first time I've read this. I just couldn't get past the way that grass comes out of heavy, dark soil. I was like, Ya Allah, I'll never look at a string of grass the same. How is that possible that this most fragile, or like the tiny little root, I love how you put it, the tiny little thing, and it just becomes a huge vine. It's impossible to pull out. Like, this is what I was struggling with this whole time. How? SubhanAllah. So we find that when so His universal law, these general laws and universal laws that He's teaching us in the Qur'an, is that when we allow ourselves to be abd, to have sidq, to confirm the truth of the fact that we are 100% so unable, soft, fragile, delicate, tender. We just have infinite needs and are 100% unable to do anything. And we allow ourselves to soften. We allow ourselves to feel covered by the protection of His care. Then, and only then, the ocean is split for Musa. The fire becomes cold for Ibrahim. The son that you thought you were going to slaughter, because you let go of the eye and because you slaughtered your eye, the nafs, then you keep your son, and I will give you even more. And I will send you from the heavens even more than you can imagine. A ram from the heavens, a sheep from the heavens for you to enjoy now that you have learned the universal law that your heart should be totally, aligned with His shara, both in creation, the sunnatullah in creation, and His divine command. Ya Rabb, yani, Bismillah. Fa'lan Bismillah. Ending with Bismillah is the most beautiful way. Bismillah.
So actually, the surrender is not hard. Surrender is the fitri way of being. When we find it hard, it's because we're actively resisting, actively clinging onto something else. Like Allah says, this is the way to go, and I say, no, the way I know is something else. So I'm clinging to my own beliefs, and then I cannot surrender. And the only way is to let go of my own beliefs and whatever prejudgments and whatever I know, I'm not sure about it because I'm so limited. I don't know what will happen in 20 minutes. I don't know what's going on behind the wall. I'm so limited, yet I take stand as if I am sure. So the more I know my place, the more it becomes easier to let go and stop resisting. And when I stop resisting, then surrender becomes easy, inshallah. That's why tazkiyah is important. That's why the La ilaha part is so important of the Shahada.
I can just quickly share a short story. I promise it's short, of exactly why this last piece is so true. And it's just so real and practical. And it's so profound as universal law. So on Tuesday, I locked my keys inside the car and I could not go into the car because I left the keys in the stroller, threw everything in the trunk, closed it, locked it, and left. Wednesday, I have to take my son to school. Okay, khalas, we take the subway. We'll figure this out later, Yani. I don't want to think about it right now. We don't need it. Thursday, I have to move the car or else I get a ticket because of alternate sides. I'm like, okay, now I have to see. So the day prior, I asked my neighbor who did it for me the last time, can you do it? I would be able to do it, but the part that I need is with my friend, and my friend is in the hospital. So the sabab that I usually rely on to help me, my neighbor, was not available. So then I message another neighbor, hey, do you have this piece? Does he have this piece? Yes, but unresponsive. And then Allahu Alam, never. Okay, so I'm like, astaghfirullah. Thursday, okay, it's 8 o'clock, 8:30. I have to move the car by 9:30. Inside, something is saying like, be patient, but then something is like, oh, but act quickly because 9:30 is right around the corner. We don't want to get a ticket. So then I start calling all these different agencies. How much is it going to be to quickly open it? It's a 2-minute job, Yani. You just stick a little thing in $100. I'm like, but that doesn't feel like the right thing to, that's so, for what? My neighbor could do it. I just got to wait for him to wake up and actually text back. So I didn't know, subhanAllah. So my mom, so again, Allah is going to send you, when you pause and you wait and you observe, Yani inside there's like red lights, yellow lights, and green lights. Like, should I do this? Yellow light, I'm not sure. Only when you pause, wait, and observe, you can feel the difference between red light, yellow light, green light. Like something is saying, just wait, I'm not sure. Something is saying, maybe. Something is saying definitely not. Like $100. Like, nah, we not like, can you do it for this price? No, all right, then khalas. Anyway, then the guidance came like, okay, why don't you just ask the mechanic at the corner? So subhanAllah, on the walk back from the subway, I had to pass him anyway. I'm like, oh, can you? I had already accepted khalas. If we have to pay it, we have to pay it. Whatever. Hayya, yani khalas, sabiha ala Allah. Whatever we have to do. Clearly, my way is not responding. I ask. He says, let me take a look. Is your car here? I'll take a look. I said, yeah, whatever you want. If you can do it for me, if I can borrow this piece, yani just let me know. Your car is here on this block? Okay, I'll take a look. So I take my toddler and we go upstairs to prepare. By the time I came downstairs, I found that the door was opened. The man had left, didn't ask me for anything. And subhanAllah, the problem was just solved with ways I didn't expect. So I expected my neighbors to come through for me, but they were not available. Then
Why don't you buy the piece then? Since it happened many
I
times.
should definitely buy the piece.
This is my first thing is just buy it and put it at home since I needed it so many times.
So, subhanAllah, see? So subhanAllah, it's just when we
Tawakkul ala Allah as the camel. You tie your camel and you make tawakkul ala Allah.
Isra, you're muted. Oh, you're on purpose.
Or put an extra key in the house.
Subhanallah. So
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
but when we quiet enough,
Extra key, definitely.
yeah. Yeah.
Even if I'm traveling, I take the extra key with me, just in case.
So, Bismillah. Alhamdulillah for all the guidance. So when we quiet enough the panic and
That
just
mechanic in New York, it's impressive. Like he must be very busy and he walked on, did that thing and left for you.
when you quiet down the panic just enough to say, Khalas, I accept however it's going to be. Bismillah, let's see what we're going to do. And not relying on myself or my old, like the people that were coming through for me previously. I was relying on them initially. Like, what do you mean? You always do it for me, kind of thing. But subhanAllah, then when I left it, I saw Allahu Akbar. So
That was your cow.
Yeah, if they helped you again and again. I mean, it's just a little example symbolically we're talking, obviously not to overdo it, but if they always did it, you'd be like, I have great neighbors, but
Right.
now you're like, I have somebody who takes care of me. You
Right.
make yourself this bit from Rumi that I had recently read. It says, what sin did these trees, Ya Rabbi, had that they lost all their beauty, then they're all withering away, and talking about the going of the spring. And then the divine answer, it comes, it says, we do it so that they know that the beauty is not from them. Of course, not about the flowers, it's about human being. So sometimes people disappoint us or not there or can't, always texting back, but not texting back, but it is to call us back to perhaps, inshallah, to remind us real source, inshallah.
Bismillah.
Bismillah. Jazakumullah khair. Dr. Yamina and Sarah and Nirbanu and everyone. Jazakumullah khair. We stop here for today, inshallah.
Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair. Dr. Yamina, could you say a dua to, inshallah, continue onwards and also pray for all of us, inshallah.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت. أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء لك بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. يا حي يا قيوم يا حي يا قيوم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك أستغيث أصلح لي شأني كله ولا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين ولا أقل من ذلك فإني لا أحسن التدبير. اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله وما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم ونسألك الجنة وما يقرب إليها من قول أو عمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما يقرب إليها من قول أو عمل ونسألك من كل قضاء تقضيه لنا خيرا. كاف ها يا عين صاد حاميم. فسيكفيكم الله وتوكلت على الله. آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. في أمان الله إن شاء الله. May Allah accepts everyone's dua and may يصلح شأننا إن شاء الله
يا رب.
وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت. في أمان الله.
آمين. في أمان الله. السلام عليكم.